Hey everyone, this is Rob of the Actors Workshop, and today's episode we are going to discuss It Doesn't Have to Make Sense. Now, wait a second. That doesn't make sense, Rob. Well, I'm going to explain. The intellectual mind always wants to make sense of every single thing, but yet when we, as an audience, watch a film or listen to a song, we accept what the artist has given us, whether that be the actor, the musician, etc. A great example of this is there's a song by the band Iron Maiden called Empire of the Clouds. And it's talking about the airship, the R-101, that crashed in France a long time ago, and 48 people died. And the way that it lyrically worked at the end, the line is 8 and 40 souls who came to die in France, rather than 48 souls, because the 48 souls didn't work with the music. So Bruce Dickinson, the lead singer, and also who wrote the song, wrote 8 and 40 souls. The intellectual brain wants to sit there and go, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. We don't speak that way. But the other side accepts it and goes, it's kind of genius. How does that mind come up with that way of putting it and make it work within their own art? It is what it is. It doesn't have to make sense. Okay, on the film side. So last week we're in class, and I used the phrase buck naked, and we got in a little bit of a debate. Wait a second, isn't it butt naked? Because logically saying butt makes sense, buck doesn't make any sense. But if you look at the history of the phrase was buck naked. That doesn't make sense. It is what it is. It just, we accept it, we say it, and we deal with it. And as soon as the intellectual mind comes out, another example, the song Hotel California, the line is, her mind is Tiffany twisted. That is not a line that somebody's mind sits there and goes, that makes sense. So most people think the line is, her mind is definitely twisted. But if you listen to the lyrics, it's talking about how she's into expensive things. So then all of a sudden you go, okay, it does kind of make sense. But the logical brain, when it first hears it, doesn't accept it. That was what we were discussing in class last week, was the intellectual mind wants to sit there. The intellectual mind wants to sit there and say, doesn't make sense. And it doesn't have to, because even if it doesn't make sense, it actually does make sense. And so what you're really trying to get to, and what you're really trying to deal with, is accepting what the audience gives you. I mean, what the artist gives you, accepting what it is, and not sit there and overanalyze it. So as actors, we just have to go, and our job is to speak it truthfully the way it is, and let the audience grab on and accept and take off with them. There's so many sci-fi films. There's so many fictional films, and yet we as an audience completely buy into it, right? There's so many songs lyrically where we sit there and, right, buy into it. You know, another one, Rock the Casbah by The Clash, very famous song in the 80s, still something you'll hear quite a bit of. The line is, Sharif don't like it. Logical mind doesn't hear it that way. It hears it as, Cherie don't like it. Well, what is Cherie, and who the hell is she, right? I mean, the bottom line is that you have to accept that, you know what? Once again, and I've repeated this a few times already, the artist has a reason, accept it. And as actors, we have a reason, so accept it. This is how we speak, this is the way it is, and just accept it. Behind me right here, let me see, right there, is the Ingmar Bergman box set. And when you watch his films, not everything makes sense. But what made him a brilliant filmmaker is when you sat back and went, he made you think about it. He made you not just go, today's movies are so much surrounded and done for the audience that every little dot, every I is dotted, every T is crossed, and everything is just taken care of for you. In the old days, it was, here you go, this is it, all the fat is trimmed, and don't overthink this, just accept it, because it doesn't have to make sense. It just is what it is. And what happens when you watch those kinds of films, those types of films, it makes you want to go revisit it to kind of see what you missed. It makes you revisit it to see if you get a different perspective. And maybe as you revisit it, you start to get a different perspective of what you're watching. Now, right next to Bergman, right there in the orange box, you kind of see the top there, is the Fellini box set by Criterion. Behind me is a lot of the Criterion collection that I have. And what you get with Fellini is, especially when you think of some of the different movies, is you just get jumps. This is happening, right? And you don't know what the actors are. Are they living a reality, or are they living a dream? Are they, there's so many different things. When you watch 8.5, the whole premise of the movie is he's making the movie within the movie. And the first thing you think is, what parts am I watching that are his life? And what parts am I watching where it's his movie? And once again, it causes you to go, I don't need to make sense of this. I'm just going to accept it. And then it makes me want to revisit it. And that is the thing about so many of these great filmmakers, is they were able to, even if you fast forward to a more recent movie, to like a Goodfellas, and they're telling stories and they're doing all of these different things, the first time you see it, we just accept it and we really don't overanalyze what they're talking about. Now, the more you watch it, the more you see it, the more you deal with it, what happens is you start to go, oh, did this event really happen? Or did this, did these moments, is this film or is this reality? And it makes you revisit it to see, what you missed, and in your intellectual mind, what it accepted, and then what you decide it becomes reality or not. So one of the things I'm doing right now on social media is every day I'll post a this date in history, and then a movie that was made about that event. And a couple days ago, it was, speaking of Goodfellas, was the robbery of Air France, which was depicted in the movie, where Ray Liotta and Joe Pesci go and steal the money. Well, that event really happened. A lot of people don't look that up. They just accept it. So kind of going back to what we're talking about here, it doesn't always have to make sense, because in the end, it does make sense. We just don't know it until we know it. So as you're in this process, as you're working, as you're doing this, take the mind out. The mind will always try to dissect. The mind will always try to make sense. And it doesn't always have to make sense, because eventually it's going to make sense. All right. So just a quick little video for you guys, something to think about. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments section. If you are not following yet or subscribing, please hit that button, do that. I am Rob of the Actors Workshop, and hope to see you soon.